All right, we're live on YouTube and 3, 2, 1. Diary of a Trans Woman is brought to you by everyone over at patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. If you want to be part of the amazing group of people who help support this show, head on over to patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman to learn more. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Diary of a Trans Woman. This is episode 72, and it is, what is it today? July 17th, 2016. Today's going to be a different kind of episode. I don't have any news stories or anything. EJ's here. Hey, EJ.
Hey, it's me. I'm EJ. Hi, Abby.
Hi, EJ. So yeah, we've been trying since EJ has come on. We've been trying to get on a much more regular and routine schedule of releasing, and we've been recording on Thursdays, and that's been working so far. But then something happened last week, and
Oh
we
boy.
had to postpone it. And I really don't want to talk about it, but that goes against what this podcast is. I don't want to censor myself, but I don't know. Long story short, I guess for some background, for anybody out there who didn't know, I have been in a poly relationship. I've been in and out of poly relationships for the past few years. My current relationship was with two amazing partners, and we were doing really well. Things felt like they were going really great. And on Monday night last week, so a week ago today, I asked, like, hey, is everything going okay? We doing good? Just kind of checking in. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. We're gonna make this last. I still love you. It's like, all right, cool. Then Tuesday rolls around, and I come home from work, and they're both sitting on the couch. I said, the romance is gone. You need to leave. You need to get out. And that threw me for a huge loop. And it's some people, I mean, I take breakups hard. I don't do well with them at all. And I have found myself going through this cycle, almost, it seems, of you just spend time down in the depths dealing with depression and anxiety, and it just completely fucks you up, and you wait for somebody to come along, and there's something to come along that pulls you up, and you get 5 minutes of happiness before you get shoved back down there again. And I'm so sick of repeating that process. And so I went home, and I was very broken. I texted a friend, and I said, I am really considering ending my life. And I drove home with the intention of doing just that, because number one, I didn't want the thing to end I didn't want that relationship to end, but almost more, having a more powerful impact, I am so sick of going through this goddamn cycle. I'm so sick of letting people into my life and getting to the point where they can say, hey, I love you. We're going to make this work. Now, right off the bat, that is anxiety inducing in me, because I expect it to fail. I just expect them to be full of crap. And it takes a very long time. Say what?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
I'm just listening to your story, baby.
It takes a long time for me to be able to hear that and feel any amount of comfort from it. And I felt like I had just gotten to that point where I was hearing the affirming words that they had to say and taking them to heart and believing them and drawing comfort from that. It's not something that happens with me very often. And when it does happen, it seems like immediately afterwards things crash and burn. I'm just so sick of it. I drove home. I stopped. I bought a big thing of rum. And I went home and started to drink. And I don't drink to cover up pain. It's not something I do. I might have one beer, one cider, one drink at the end of a night to unwind, or I might drink socially with friends. But if I'm drinking alone, I'm not doing it to cover up pain. I'm doing it to end pain. And so that's what I tried to do. And I had a bottle of pills, and I was going to take that. Just anything I can get my hands on. I don't know what anything would do, but so I tried doing that, and my friend who was texting with me told me just to call the trans suicide hotline. And for the first time in my life, I did. I don't know if I wanted them to talk me out of it or what. I didn't know what to, I had two parts of my brain just fighting. One wanted to end, one wanted to keep going. And I didn't know what to do. So I called, spent about an hour on the phone with them. They helped. They don't really know me, so it's hard to help somebody you don't know, but they were there. They didn't know anything about podcasting, but I drunkenly told them that I was a podcaster, and that helped me. That was somewhat of a coping mechanism. So she told me to go, and before I made any final decisions or anything, go and talk into a microphone. And so I got off the phone and I went over, opened up Audacity, and tried talking to the phone. It didn't work. About that time, EJ, you messaged me. My friend had texted you, and we talked for, I don't know how long we talk.
2 hours.
A few hours, yeah.
About.
And I was not doing great.
Nope.
I didn't take the pills. I just drank as much as I possibly could, passed out, and I woke up the next day. EJ, you came into town. You drove from Chicago to Detroit, which to just kind of be there, which means the world to me. I think one of the only reasons I'm doing is I think the only reason I'm as functional as I am right now is because you were there, and so thank you for that.
Of course.
In between the time when I woke up and you got here, I made a post in a poly group that I'm a part of, and I started talking about I tried to end things. I lost my partners and I'm sick of going through this cycle and I don't know what to do. I'm just looking for advice. I'm looking for anything. And my ex-partners saw this, messaged the admins, and then the admins messaged me. And all of a sudden, I'm having to defend myself against allegations of abuse. Apparently, my ex-partners have saw that post. They assumed I was doing it for attention, and they began telling everyone that I was mentally and physically abusive and that I hit them multiple times throughout the relationship. And so that's kind of what I've been dealing with. I had no idea what the specifics of that were. I've racked my brain. I can't think of anything. I can't imagine a situation where I would ever lay my hands on my partners. I can't imagine being the kind of person that would strike someone they supposedly loved. But that's what I was dealing with, and that just added a whole lot more of confusion. It did help me kind of get over the I want you back kind of deal, because there's no going back after that. You can't throw those objections out and still have anything there. It still hurt. It's like, I don't know. Even if it wasn't right to begin with, like losing it still hurt. And so that's what I've been dealing with. I struggled my way through the past week, and I'm functional, barely. I'm having good days and bad days. I did wind up messaging them and saying, "Hey, these are texts that I sent to my friends after I left your house. This is the phone log of the conversation I had with the trans suicide hotline. I am not joking about this. I do not do this for attention or to get a reaction out of you." And we wound up having a civil conversation, I guess. It wasn't friendly, but it was, I guess, civil. And they say that these abuse allegations come from, well, they gave me two examples. One was that one of my partners she is trans. She was talking bad about herself continually. And I mean, that's something that trans people do. That's something that a lot of people do. I don't like this about myself. I don't like this about myself. I wish I could change this. And the whole time you going like, no, there's nothing to change at all. And finally, it was after going on and on like that for a while, I said, positive reinforcement isn't really working out. What about negative reinforcement? And gave her a playful little jab. Never meant to inflict harm. Never meant as anything other than a kind of joke. And the entirety of that relationship felt very playful throughout the entire thing. And so the idea that that would be considered as abuse never even crossed my mind. The other example that was given was took place in a little bit more of a personal situation. And so I won't give the details of that, but it was akin to fooling around with your partner and giving a good solid slap on the ass, and then the other person being like, whoa, I did not sign up for that. I didn't want that. It was certainly a misreading of the situation, but nothing ever, in no way meant to harm, in no way meant to be manipulative or an outlet for anger or any form of abuse. And so I never thought I'd be having to face allegations like these. I don't abuse my partners. I don't ever want to hurt my partners. And it's very confusing to face these down. It's very anxiety inducing to try and think of this. And I don't really know what to do at this point. And right now I'm just kind of surrounding myself with good people and trying to keep my head above water. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And EJ, we've talked. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I'm obviously talked. We did a lot of that on Tuesday, a lot on Wednesday. The allegations of abuse, that hit close to home for me. I've never faced those allegations in a relationship. However, I've found that one of the most insidious ways, one of the most harmful ways that you can try to besmirch the reputation of a trans woman is by holding her to a double standard of aggression, of violence, of whatever,
Mm.
and hold their to kind of reinforce that as just like, oh well, you're just some dude and you have all this built up anger or whatever. I mean, it happens. That's the undercurrent of bathroom laws. That's just
Yeah.
dudes who are trying to sneak into bathrooms to prey on children or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, in of bathroom laws, that's just
Yeah.
dudes who are trying to sneak into bathrooms to oh, I just got
Sorry. Sorry. Echo. Yeah. Go ahead.
that was weird.
I'll explain what happened later.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the bathroom laws, that's the undercurrent. I mean, it's something that I see personally over and over again in athletics, in roller derby, where I participate in. Um, and I told you part of this story, but so a few years ago, I started in roller derby and men's roller derby because I really wanted to play women's roller derby, but I wasn't hadn't come to terms with my gender identity yet. Um, so I transferred to a women's roller derby league, and I found myself very aggressively gaslighted. And I found myself in a situation where I was being told that I was out of control and dangerous, and just kind of. I had an athletic trainer who, like, this is one of the most blatant. She was doing a physical and asked me if I was on hormones. And at that point, it was about 2 months before I started taking hormones. I said, not yet. It's like, well, not yet. And I said, well, does it make a difference? And what she said was, well, I have to worry about the safety of everyone else in the league. Um, and that just blew my mind. And I had, all these things that were thrown at me, and I transferred to another league, and I again got this, I mean, it's a contact sport and people get hurt, but I was held to this very strict double standard where I ended up getting kicked out of that league because I was supposedly reckless and dangerous and a bully when I'd just be trying my best. And the double standard I was held to was so impossible. And this all took a year and a half. And I was kind of questioning myself. And I was just like, am I really out of control? Am I really violent? And then I started hearing it from my friends. Started hearing it from trans women in other roller derby leagues all around the world who would, have these same stories, saying it's just like, oh, well, they're calling me a bully. They're saying I'm out of control. They're saying, hey, can you just only go at 5%? They're afraid of me. They're uncomfortable.
Other trans women were dealing with the same issues, or other trans women were saying that you were out of
No,
control?
they were dealing with the same issues in their leagues. They had cisgender people, just from all over the world.
Yeah.
Were doing, giving them the same gaslight treatment. And I realized, well, no one is seeing this pattern because it's happening at the lowest levels, and it's happening to these newer people who don't really have the platform to talk about it. And that's when I really found my voice on it. And so when I hear something like, well, I mean, I yeah gave my partner a playful jab on the arm, and something akin to a ass slap that said, no, don't do that, it's okay, you know and that's where I see that double standard pop up again. And
Mhm.
it's something where, I mean, it baffles me to think that that's it seems like it's like I don't see you. I've known you for a little while, and I don't see you as a violent person. It's very hard to imagine.
Mm.
Um, but
Well, and the other thing, I mean, that double standard definitely comes into play, but both of my partners were trans woman and someone who was bigender.
sure,
So hearing it almost would be better if it was coming from a cis person.
it would.
Like, you know what, you don't. I would be able to tell myself like, no, I'm not abusive. This is somebody who doesn't understand what's going on, or this is. I would be able to tell myself that much more readily if it were coming from a cis person.
When
Uh,
a person is threatened, I mean, I had a similar experience when I was in one of my first roller derby leagues, where I had a game that I was playing against another trans person, and they were very forceful in, kind of complaining about what I was doing. Like, they were convinced I was committing penalties where I wasn't, and very, very agitated about it. And I found that, I don't know, maybe it was just I was hitting them in places they weren't used to. And even, I occasionally, I had to correct myself a few years ago. There were other trans people around, who I thought were, you know, behaving out of line, and I had to identify some internalized trans misogyny inside myself, kind of standard that, I was holding others to. And I just realized, just like, there's a lot going on. There's a lot, um, that I can't really afford to judge. I don't know.
yeah.
It's something that
And
I don't think it necessarily matters, who it's coming from. I think it's something that it exists inside all of us to varying degrees.
yeah. I mean, I will certainly say that I misread some situations,
Sure.
and that happens. People do
Yeah.
that all the time, and yeah, you misread some situations. I I apologize for that, and I completely take responsibility for that. I mean, I don't think that the definition of abuse covers that, though. And what would you call what would the definition of abuse be for you?
Oh, who do I look like? Merriam-Webster? Come on. Let's see. I mean, it's something that I think would have to be something that's
Something backed by anger?
it's yeah, backed by anger. That might be part of it.
Was
Yes.
there an example of one abuse would not be backed by anger or
Um, I don't know. I mean, I describe one of my former therapist, as emotionally manipulative, and I'm not sure if, like, sometimes I go so far as to say emotionally abusive, depending on how I'm thinking about it, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure whether or not that's. I mean, I know it wasn't motivated by anger, but a lot of it was motivated by extreme self-absorption, obliviousness, carelessness. Um, I think at some level, it has to be, everyone gets angry, and
Yeah.
we're all entitled to our anger. I mean, if you were in a situation, where you got angry, um, at them, and you, or any partner, and you express that anger in a measured way, that's not abusive. Um, I think,
There and I don't wanna go through this, and I don't wanna drag them through the mud or anything, I promise. we agreed we'd be civil, and so I want to give as unbiased of a view of this as I can. I know Monday night I was trying to fix my car and I was having a really hard time with it, and my my engine was in pieces and hoses disconnected all over the place. It's not something I've done. It was high anxiety because I wasn't sure if I was going to have a working car in the morning. And as I'm trying to get this figured out, I'm over at my partner's house, and um, the other is on their way here, and we have plans to have a night with the three of us. And I get a text saying, "Hey, do you care if we just do me and her together? And would you go home?" And that really hurt. And it was presented to me as if they had gone behind my back and decided to kick me out of the date that I was a part of. And that really hurt. And I did. I got frustrated. And my car wasn't fixed. Spent a decent chunk of money on a new part and it didn't even fix my car. And I got it together right as everything was going, and I discovered it didn't work, and I discovered that I was being asked to leave. I got frustrated, and I tossed my keys across the garage, and I put the hood down a little bit harder than I probably should have, and I said I didn't yell at her in frustration, but it was just I said, "I don't know if I can do this anymore." And it wasn't an angry yell. It was more of just a desperation of like, Jesus Christ, I don't, this hurt. And I went inside and we talked, and she said it was fine. She forgave me and that she understood. And then that night, they both stayed up later than I did. And I guess they stayed up real late into the night talking. And according to the conversation I had after the fact, these events were never in their heads as like this was abusive, but we have never talked about it. This is I mean, both of these events happened months ago,
Sure.
and it was never something in their head as abuse. And that night, last Monday night, they say everything just kind of clicked, and they decided, realized. I don't know what you would call it, but it wasn't a problem until they both decided it was, and that's when they told me to get out.
And I can understand that. I went through that, like I said, with my emotionally manipulative therapist, and when I stopped seeing her, I stepped away and it's like, man, she did some really messed up stuff to me that I excused at the time that I didn't really, identify it with. And so, I mean, I can understand turning around and saying, it's just like, oh, well, I didn't see it.
Wait a second, maybe this was abusive. Yeah, the and I said like I'm not going to say that when things just kind of click into place months later. It's not to say that those aren't legitimate. I just really would have loved to talk to try and like not even to salvage a relationship, but to salvage mental health.
Right. I think it's in the course of any relationship, um, these are emotions that people have, being angry, being, upset, being, euphoric, being, being afraid. We, when we relate to our partners, we, relate under the, under the own emotional weather that we're going through. We relate depending on the conditions of our lives, and part of the process of any relationship is learning to navigate that. I
Mm.
mean, that you had a yeah, I mean it would be nice in some way. I mean, if it's something where you were really angry situationally, it seemed understandable. That requires some navigation of what those feelings mean, what you're like when you're angry, and what it means, and what the circumstances, what they can expect from you. And I mean, it's disappointing that it just
Mhm.
did before you could work through it. But I think working through it, I mean, and obviously I can't know what's going on with them. There could be
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on with them either. It was a complete and 100% instantaneous severing. So,
right. I mean, I can't. So I don't mean to be projecting
no,
too much
you're okay.
on them, because I mean, I want to remain civil with you. But I just think in a relationship that just there comes a point where you have to navigate those emotions. Where I mean, I've been in relationships where I just I'm there and get really angry, and then after the fact, it's just like I was angry at the situation. I wasn't angry at you. Where I have to figure out how to
Yeah.
express it in a productive way. And awesome, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff you have to endure to make a relationship stronger.
Yeah, and it certainly is. I am not I am still able to stand up and say that I am not abusive to my partners. I I don't ever want to be abusive to my partners, and I don't think that I am. Now, I think that there still is some introspection that can happen. I can still look internally and see what happened and what needs to change. And maybe it's a need for further communication within a relationship. Maybe it's a need for me to double check the situation and figure out what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and do a better job of sticking on one side of the line. Um, which is I I feel like I have a decent amount of control over that. And I mean, but I don't know.
Well,
It sucks because I don't know if my ex-partners are completely off base. If is anything that they're saying true? Because
well,
if anything that they are saying about me is true, that means I've got a lot of stuff that I need to change in my life because I want to be as far from that label as I can.
and I mean, for what it's worth, as somebody who you know was not directly involved in the relationship, sounds to me like you were doing the best you could with the information you had, you know, and that your heart was generally in the right place. Um,
I never, yeah.
but I mean, the sometimes I think it's a little situational, based on the relationship. Um, I mean, it's something where you don't know what kind of raw nerves you're stepping on with your partner. I mean, it might have been just that triggered something in them that you didn't know about, and
Yeah.
that they're projecting onto you. It could be that, and it's something where I mean, you can examine yourself all you want, and you can go over it again and again, and some degree of that is healthy. Um,
I mean, if it is the case, and I think it is the case that there were some nerves that were stepped on, that there were some things that were triggered that I wasn't aware of.
Sure.
And that's and I can tell myself, I can say out loud that that's no one's fault. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
People don't know. It's one of the reasons, I mean, if people don't know something and then they accidentally step over a line or whatever, that happens all the time.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily anyone's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that out loud very easily. Um, Internally though, there's just that voice in the back of my head, like, but is it really no one's fault? Did you do everything did you do everything could you have done anything that would have made it so you were aware of this?
I mean, if there's anything that trans women are great at, it's self-doubt.
Yeah.
We are fantastic at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, to some, like the way I kind of see it is that in your mind, you were doing the best you could with what you knew. And being something I have to remind myself of a lot when I try to hold myself to these higher standards, when I try to, look back in retrospect at something that, didn't go well, whether it's, when I
Mhm.
like to experiences on roller derby leagues that didn't go too well or other things like that, I can look back on it and say it's just like you're never really going to have an answer for whether or not what you did was right or wrong. I mean, your memory isn't going to suddenly get better, and at some level you got to remember that being trans is for all, and especially in a partnership with all three of you, being trans, that it's something, it's an extra weight that you all have to carry, and it's an extra stressor, extra piece of overhead that you have to worry about in your life. And that,
Yeah.
perhaps just something like that that informs so much of what we do and informs so much of our life, just took something that could have been a very small, disagreement, a regular bump in the course of a relationship, as you guys, figured out where you were and figured out, what nerves not to hit, what, how each other's, where each other's sensitive spots were, and just amplified it and blew it out of proportion just because there's
Yeah.
a lot we're dealing with.
Yeah. And I said at the beginning, like, it wasn't, I kind of, so much, there's definitely a part of it that wonders about that, like the specifics of this relationship, and a lot of the angst that I've been feeling is brought on by this specific relationship. But there's also just the whole the cycle of it, repeating it and repeating it and repeating it, where you your anxiety is off the charts and your depression is running rampant, and you just live like that until something comes along that pulls you up and makes you happy, and then a month or two later, a month, 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year later, you get thrown right back down there. I mean, the fact that this cycle seems to continue, and I mean, there's only so many times people can tell you, oh, you just picked a bad apple. And I think I've realized I've been able to look at myself and identify this pattern. And I think I realized that I search for romantic validation very, very strongly. And I don't think that's uncommon for trans people. I mean, maybe it's not romantic validation, but I mean, in a living as we are, validation is a very important part of our lives.
Just intimate validation of our humanity.
Yeah. And the way that I've sought out that validation is through romantic interests.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's still a difference in my head between a sex buddy and a romantic relationship. But I mean, I latch on to that romantic validation very quickly.
Sure.
Um, like half of my suckers will attach themselves and hold very tightly to a romantic relationship, and the other half are just like, they're the half that gets nervous when they say, when, because I think that everything's going to go to hell, and it takes a very long time to let somebody in completely. um and so I need to figure out how to be okay on my own. I need to figure out how to find that validation within myself and not through other people, and that's not going to be easy. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that.
It's not easy. And I think um, as we find our own gender identities and as we deal with our own issues, some of the some of our flaws become exaggerated. Some of our flaws we become dependent on in order to survive. You
Yeah.
know, the only way that I was able to transition in the first place, I only realized this myself about myself very recently, and I've been in therapy for a long time. But I only realized recently that I'm a very avoidant person. I can be, not confront my issues, not, want to rock the boat. I can, you know, not discuss things, just let things simmer. And that's something that I think has negatively affected me in my gender identity, in my relationships, in my jobs, in my personal life, etc. And it's only something recently where I've been had that context, known that about myself to be able to diagnose it. And
Hmm.
you know, it's that's the kind of thing where you can only, I mean, you can break that cycle by even just being conscious of it, you know, even just being conscious of the fact that are looking for validation through romantic relationships, um, can, ultimately lead you to be a little more cautious if you get into your next relationship. Say it's just like, oh, am I just looking for validation? And, you know,
Yeah.
being aware of it can lead to something even more rewarding.
Yeah. I cannot even begin to imagine getting into. I cannot imagine being intimate with somebody else at this time right
Right.
now. But and so and that's rough, and I think that's brought on by the fact that I'm realizing this about myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also part of the like, no, this really fucking hurt, and I don't want to do it again. That's certainly a part of it. But Jesus, man, I'm gonna get into another relationship, and it took 4 months before I started to actually believe that this was a thing. And how long is it going to take now? Am I going to have to find somebody that's going to like put up with my skepticism for over half a year before I start to believe that it actually means something?
I mean, there are other people out there who also, you know, can have, a 6 month loading time, you know,
We'll just spend half a year being skeptical of one another.
keeping an arm's distance of getting accustomed to one another. I don't know. My general rule in life is I don't make very many hard predictions about the future.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. Like it's right now, I'm just day by day. I'm a figure things out. I'm definitely past the point of wanting to do anything to end anything. Um, and so that's good. Like I'm not going to actively seek anything out like that. But God damn it, I'm so sick. I wish I could just tell my brain to shut off because I am still spending most of my days fighting panic attacks and trying to function.
Yeah.
There were like 3 separate times just during my work day today where I like felt my stomach drop and I broke out into a cold sweat and started getting nauseous.
Mm.
And that shit, like, I haven't been able to sleep. I can't sleep. And it sucks because anxiety attacks like that, they take about as much energy as a full workout. And I'm not sleeping. I'm nauseous, so it's hard to eat. And I'm having to get super stoned every night to just get a few hours of sleep before I wake up. I woke up at 3 in the morning yesterday and couldn't get back to sleep until like 5 or 6. I don't, just it's and I wish I could turn it off. I can have rational conversations and I can talk about like I can be very logical about things, but I can't turn my brain off, which I really hate.
Yeah, there's a part of your brain you can't really outsmart. You know, some parts of us are just slaves to our own natures.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the case though. I should be able to just turn things off when I want to. Well, turn things off and be able to turn them back on later.
Yeah, well, again, that's the dream every trans woman has. You
I
know,
think that's the dream most people have. Anybody with anxiety or depression or anything, just the ability to just kind of shut things down for a little bit,
yeah,
do like a hard reboot.
I'll be fine for a while, and then eventually I'll turn it back on, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You know, in moderation, that anxiety can serve you, but when it gets up to the panic attacks and the
yeah.
privation,
You
you know,
know,
you
it's
should
all
you
like
should stop that.
we don't need anxiety attacks anymore. The only reason we had like anxiety was back in caveman times when we were freaking out about saber-toothed tigers coming to eat us. That was good. That was a good reaction to have. It taught us not to go near saber-toothed tigers.
And now it teaches us not to go near the cis, which I think is not a terrible survival
Well,
mechanism. I don't trust them.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that very much at all. But once again, like everyone in this situation was trans. But I see your point.
I'm just saying, like, anxiety can serve a purpose, but just when it gets out of control, when it gets overwhelming, when it starts to, especially when it starts to be in retrospect, or starts to shut you down, uh,
Yeah.
or keep you up.
It'd
Uh,
be nice if I could get to the point where like, okay, you're able to have a intelligent conversation about this that is rational and thought out and rather smart. You don't have to deal with this anymore. You can go ahead with that plan.
have you ever been to the seen the website You Feel Like Shit?
No, but I'm gonna go check it out right now because it seems appropriate.
It's kind of it's a neat thing that I don't use as often as I should, maybe. But yeah, it has a if you Google it, it'll show up. I guess it's youfeelllikeshit.com is a version. Um, and what it does is just walks you through different things that might be affecting you, and just kind of gives you prompts. And you just need, like, you give yourself, block off a little bit of time to go through it. But it's like, have you eaten recently? Have you drank anything? Have you? Okay, now let's kind of go over. Is there anything that might make you anxious? Is there? Kind of give you some prompts to try to just make sure and check off all the usual suspects, and that you can make sure you're on a sound footing. So kind of
Well,
like a, a helpful friend.
we got 10 minutes. Have you eaten in the last 4 hours? Yeah, actually, I had dinner. I forced myself to eat, even though I didn't want to. Yes, next question. Have you taken any medications you need to take? Yep, I'm all caught up. Drink a glass of whatever liquid you like best. Water is ideal, but don't beat yourself up if you'd rather have tea, soda, juice, or milk. Soda will actually make you feel thirstier, but if it's easier for you, then that's okay.
Dude, you got a liquid right there, baby.
It's a cider.
I hardly know her.
Okay, did it. I'm not going to drink this whole thing. I don't want to.
Yeah, that never turns out well.
The idea of chugging alcohol right now is not appetizing to me. Um, can you take a guess at how many hours you've slept out of the last 24? Everyone is an individual with different sleep schedules, but most people need 8 hours of sleep uninterrupted. If you've had less than that and or wake up more frequently, you might need to take a nap. I need a nap. Let's see, 3, 4, 5. About 5 hours last night. That was a decent night for me. Take a nap. You can finish this self-care guide when you wake up. Ideally, let yourself sleep naturally and sleep until you wake up. Obviously, this isn't always possible. Otherwise, set an alarm for yourself. Plenty of time to... Okay, let's say I'm well rested now. Are you in pain? My body feels fine. Next, we're going to deal with the other types of physical discomfort. Is there something about your environment that is distressing or uncomfortable? I don't know. I'm in a basement, but I like it. It seems fine.
Pretty comfortable.
Yeah. Am I getting into something that's going to take hours?
No.
Okay. All right. Now we've taken care of the physical reasons that you're not feeling well. Now we're going to deal with some emotional ones. Obviously, this is a general guide that can't pinpoint your exact problem, but troubleshooting is a good practice, and we're going to do our best to do it together. Do you know why you're in a bad mood or not feeling well emotionally? Yeah.
Yeah. Got anything
Yeah. There's something in my mind. It sounds like there's something on your mind.
Oh yeah, there is.
This website. Wow. We're going to do our best to take care of it. Set a timer for 15 minutes and work on a solution. If it's something you can change, then great. If not, do your best to reach out to someone and talk about it. Hey, EJ.
Hi.
We did that.
Yeah, that's kind of what this episode was.
Yeah. It says only do 15 minutes, though. We're almost up on an hour.
We overdid it.
I did my best, though. Did we? I don't know what we did to, like... There was not really an action plan for moving forward.
Well, we sorted some stuff out.
Yeah. I'm just going to surround myself with friends as much as I can. That's the other thing that I'm really happy happened. Like, one of the good things to come out of this is I was hanging out with a lot of people in my hometown area, a vintage clothing store that I used to help out at, and I was actually dating somebody earlier that worked there. We split and kind of went our separate ways. Wound up getting together with my two partners, my two ex-partners, two most recent partners, and I wound up leaving a lot of people behind and not really being active with them at all. And as soon as they heard what was going on, like immediately I had people in my life who were supporting me, and that felt really good. So surrounding myself with good people, that's what I'm gonna do. Do you feel anxious, nervous, keyed up, paranoid, scared, or on the edge? Yes, I feel anxious about something specific. Or yes, but I don't know why. I don't know why I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah.
I don't want the relationship back.
Sure. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I mean, I guess a giant falcon could sleep sweep down from the skies and carry you off to its nest, then pick at your bone.
Broke. I don't want the relationship back. I'm not abusive. Fairly certain I can tell myself that, honestly. I don't have that's one of the things that's been running through my head, but I haven't found a reason to think that I am. The memories popping into my head are not fun. So I definitely am, but I don't know why specifically.
Are you anxious about the prospect of the cycle? The coming back?
Yeah, I'm anxious about trying to be okay on my own without getting that that validation.
Yeah.
Let's say yes, I feel anxious about something specific. You're feeling anxious about something specific.
Hey, you are.
That's okay. Set a timer for 15 minutes and do something to take care of that worry. Maybe chip away at a task that seems insurmountable. You can do it. I'd like to try some grounding exercises too. I feel better. Next question. Do you feel triggered? Are you having flashbacks? Something traumatic, upsetting weighing on your mind? Do you have a nightmare? Yes to some of those, but I don't think it's me being triggered. Dissociated, depersonalized, or derealized. You feel far away, foggy, or unreal. Are you not sure who you are? Not really. Are you feeling depressed? Yes. Take 15 minutes and do something. Okay. Are you feeling lonely or in need of attention? I don't want to. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I'm definitely going to take some time tomorrow and go through it on my own. I feel like shit.com. Wait, is that what it is?
You feel like shit.com.
You feel like shit.com. So I'm gonna go through that in my own later. But yeah, it sounds good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. It's just something for when you feel like shit. I mean, I've kind of had a something. I was thinking it'd be nice to have like a trans specific version of that for kind of like,
Yeah, are you feeling dysphoric?
yeah.
What specific thing is there a specific thing making you dysphoric or?
Yeah, and some coping mechanisms, some.
Oh, we could make that. It's just text. It's just HTML.
Yeah, pretty much. Wouldn't be hard. Just require a bunch of writing.
Yeah. Maybe.
Project.
Maybe if we hit a certain Patreon goal.
Huh.
Maybe. I don't know. That might be a good Patreon goal, but that might be something that is also something I would feel guilty asking for money for. Like I feel like that's something that a lot of people need. And I don't like keeping things that people need away from them.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be withholding it. It's just getting to a point where we can have the resources to help take better care of our community, you know?
Yeah.
We always want to take better care of our community. You and I are both caretakers. We both have those mama bird instincts.
I don't know about mama bird, but mostly I just come on this. I just sit in front of this microphone to bitch, and a lot of people have said, "Hey, I like listening to you complain about life."
Well, I know that's what my current therapist described me as having kind of mama hen qualities.
Okay,
Kind of need to take care of everyone. It's just like, yeah,
I am kind of like that.
I kind of do. I kind of want to make sure everyone's okay, but
Mm-hmm.
at some level, I don't always have the resources to do it.
I'm the cool mom, though. I'm that hip mom. You're the boring housewife.
Oh,
All right.
freaking the sheets, baby.
This is supposed to be a sad episode. Before we get too happy, let's go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, if you're going through something like this, or if there's anything that we can do that you want to talk about, diaryofatranswoman@gmail.com is the email to go to. You can find me on Twitter at AbbyGeek, EJUR.
BMX 500.
BMX 500. Show is at Trans Diary Show. 5-star reviews wherever you get the podcast is going to go a long ways to helping the show. If you really want to support us, patreon.com/diary of a trans woman. Thank you so much to everybody that sat through this sob fest. Means a lot. It means a lot to have people around me that are supportive and that are awesome, and the people who can stand in front of me and be tangible and touched and that kind of thing. That's one thing, but online friends like this community is certainly a big part of that group of people. So thank you so much. Anything else, EJ?
Oh, just stay frosty, baby. I don't know.
I'll do my best.
I was trying to come up with something good to wrap it up, and I got nothing but stay frosty. So.
All right. Well, stay frosty. Artwork for the show is provided by Taylor Elaine Straw. Check out more of her work at taylorelainephoto.com. Music is Same Sex Mary, samesexmary.bandcamp.com. Thanks, everybody. Take care and have fun. That's an episode.
Sure was.
That was not the most fun episode ever.
Work through some stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna stop broadcasting on YouTube.